Today's video is definitely going to be different than any video that I've ever done on here, and I think it's like really important for me to let you guys in on this other journey that I'm taking on in my life that I've actually been working on for the past year and a half. If you're new to my channel, my name is Frilancy Hoyle, and on this channel I focus on fashion, lifestyle, a little bit of traveling, and a little bit of home decor. So if you love looking fabulous on a budget, I'm your new girlfriend. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends and your other friends so we can all be one beautiful community together. I've been very hesitant to kind of like open up this new door in my life on all my social media platforms, but I feel like it's very necessary for me to do this. It's kind of like I'm healing the younger little Free, and also I am also in the process, I'm also healing the adult Free, and I feel like I'm also doing this not just for myself but also for my sister. And I feel like I have embarked on this new journey because of my sister, and I'm forever grateful for her. If you don't know, my sister passed away in August of 2020, in August 18th, 2020, in a car accident at a very young age. She was only 23 years old. Rebecca is just so much full of life, has so much plans, but unfortunately life was very much cut short for her. If you ever hear me talk about my sister, I still talk about her in present tense. I have a hard time talking about her in past tense. So if someone say like, how's Rebecca, like how many sisters you have, whatever, I would say I have one sister, or like where she lives, I'm like, oh, she lives in Renton. Like, when you're talking to me, you think like my sister is alive, but to me she is alive even though she's not physically here. But I feel her energy every single time, everywhere I'm around, everywhere I go, I feel her. It's just a different relationship that I have with her, and I feel like this is like really, really important for me, because when my sister passed, I no longer recognized who I was as a person. I thought I had my life figured out together. Like everything was just going great, and her passing just like happening so unexpectedly, and just my life being turned so upside down. And I remember one time I was like looking in the mirror and I just no longer recognized who I was anymore, and I knew I had to get help. But for me, where I come from in my culture, I am African, from Zambia. I moved to the States when I was 9. So America is home also, because I've spent most of my life here in this country than I've actually spent in my home country. And it's just being in therapy and talking about mental health is something that's very much frowned upon in our community. So for me to start talking about being diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, and talking about it publicly on social media, it's like, what the heck are you doing to the people in my community? You know, you're supposed to just like struggle in privately and silent, and I was just like, no, I wished I could see other people who look like me. And this is why like representation matters like so much. And I was like, you know what, I guess I am gonna be that person, because if I feel like this, and I'm totally definitely sure that I'm not the only one who's going through this. Being in therapy has been one of the most hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and has been one of the most uncomfortable thing I've ever had to do. It's I don't even know how to really fully put it in words, because you think about somebody saying, okay, I struggle with mental health, and oh, like, I'm in therapy, you just think like, oh my god, this person is in therapy, they're not okay, whatever, right? But you just don't understand it. You think like that's weak, but being in therapy and seeing a professional is not weak. It's actually, you're like being strong, because it's a really hard work. You have to be completely honest with yourself. You have to be completely honest with your therapist, and then you have to be willing to do the uncomfortable work that comes with being in therapy, and also applying it into your daily life. Because if you're not applying what you're learning from your therapist, then there's no changes that's gonna happen. And if you're not also being honest with yourself, you're not gonna get any help. You're just wasting yourself. You're just wasting your money, your time, and you're also wasting your therapist's time too. Well, if you have a really good therapist, then you're wasting their time. But if you don't, they're just like, oh, whatever. This is just a job for me. So it's just kind of been like it has been a very painful but yet beautiful journey for me. I went through 3 different therapists before I found my person to hold space for me. And this is like some things like I wished that I knew beforehand going to therapy, that not everyone can hold space for you. The first therapist, I remember when I started with her, the first thing she asked me, she's like, oh, are you on any medication? And I was like, no. And I was really kind of like off put by that. It was very off-putting for me when the first thing she mentioned to me was medication, being on medication. And then the second one I started with, I just felt like a case, I'll be talking to her and telling her about how I'm feeling and everything like that, and she's like, oh, hold that thought right now, until next time our session is done. And then it's, I don't know, and it's just like a lot of things like I was learning. I just felt very much of a case instead of like a human. If you're in therapy or you're in therapy, then you understand what I'm talking about. And then the third one is just, it was just not the right fit. But one thing I'll forever be grateful for my third therapist was the fact that she recommended that I get an emotional support animal to help me with my depression and anxiety. So I get very massive anxiety when I'm driving, or somebody else is driving me, because since my sister passed away in a car accident, I always feel like I'm next. I get so much anxiety of like cars, being around cars, or just like passing certain curves, because my sister passed away. Her car accident was due to like a curve that was really sharp. So like I get so much anxiety, and very rare now my husband drives me, because I went from being a passenger princess to now dictating like my husband not driving me, because I have to drive myself. I have to drive us or drive myself, because I feel like I need to be in control in case something happens. I can prevent it. It's just the way upstairs for me now works, and something that I'm working on. So like my anxiety is like through the roof, and my depression, there's sometimes like I'm doing much better with it. There's sometimes where I could just go weeks and have not left the house because I just can't function. It comes to a point where like my grieving journey of my sister, it just sometimes becomes so debilitating, and there's no way I can feel like I can just like sometimes feel like I can keep going and keep doing life, because I have a lot of like survivor's guilt, because I'm one person in my family that struggles a lot with health issues, and then here's my sister who never had any health issues, just full of life, young, I, and it just makes me so upset sometimes when I think about it. I'm like, why her and not me, who has so much complications with my health? So I have a lot of like survivor's guilt that I'm unpacking in therapy. So it's just a lot. And in the way we grew up, I grew up in a very abusive home. I'm glad my mom got away from our I can't say father because like father is not fitting, so I'll just call him a sperm donor. So I'm just so glad that our mom got away from our sperm donor and just like started life over and give us something better. I feel like we finally made it out, and my mom was doing well. She has her own place. My little brother's doing great, has his own place. My sister's doing great, has her own place. Me, I found an amazing life partner that I'm doing life with, started our own businesses, just like feeling like, like in the battlefield, and you like finally made it out. And I feel like we have finally made it out, but then my sister did not make it. So that like still like messes with me. So it's just like a lot of unpacking and things I'm going through. But one thing like I wish I knew about the importance of finding the right therapist for you, and knowing that not everybody can hold space for you. Like finding a therapist is a kind of like job interview. You gotta interview them, like, you may have some questions like, can this person, be able to hold space for me? And that's why like a representation really, really matters. My therapist is based in New York. I am based in Seattle. We meet on Zoom every single Friday at 10 a.m. And I kid you not, I will never forget the first day I had a consultation with my therapist for 30 minutes. So she told me to ask her any questions, and she told me a little bit about herself and if I had any questions, right? And I asked her, like, I was like, okay, so what sets you apart from other therapists? And she's like, okay. Then we're talking, she's like asking me questions, right? And we're doing different things. And then there's something like vividly that I would never forget that she did with me that none of my other therapists like did with me. So since my sister passed, I have found peace and healing through traveling. I absolutely enjoy traveling now. There's just something calming and healing and peaceful that I find about going to different parts of the world where nobody knows my name, and just intertwining in their like culture, embracing that, and they don't know anything that I'm going through, and it's just so beautiful. And the first place I went to when my sister passed was Senegal, and my husband and I, we stayed at Sally Beach. And then we also stayed in Dakar. Sally Beach was the last part of our trip where we stayed at. And just being next to the ocean, hearing the waves, seeing the kids, the local kids playing, and just, if you have never been, I highly, highly recommend visiting Senegal. It was just so beautiful. It's one of those trips I would never forget in my life. Then I was telling my therapist while we were doing the consultation, I was telling her that I travel with the picture of my sister in my carry-on. And it's like a beautiful picture of her that I have in a Ziploc that I always protect. But however, I have a hard time looking at it. Like, I know the picture is in my carry-on suitcase, but I don't look at it because it just like brings me so much. It just destroys me. It makes me like break down every single time. But there's also some safety that I feel like I am taking her in all different parts of the world with me. And she's like, okay, where's the picture at? And I was like, oh, it's in my closet. There's a drawer where I have all my documents. I put for my travel documents, and her picture's there. She's like, go get it. And I'm like, what? She's like, go get it. I went and got it, and I sat on my dining table while, you know, me and her are on FaceTime, and she on Zoom, she goes, well, look at it. I was like, wait, what? She's like, look at it. And I looked at the picture, and I just lost it. Then she's like, what are all these emotions you're feeling? And I just didn't start telling her all this stuff. And she's like, what would she feel about you being this, going through this so much pain? You know, what would she tell you if she saw you like this? And I started telling her, well, I think Rebecca would be saying to me, you know? And then, you know, me being the first daughter in my, me being the first girl in my family, there's also a lot of weight that you carry being the first girl in the family. And then also on top of it, I growing up with a single parent, I raised my siblings, my little brother and my sister. Even though I have an older brother, he was older than us, he was always with his friends and stuff, but I raised my little brother and sister. So I never really had a brother and sister relationship. My relationship with them was more of a parent, you know, and a child relationship, instead of like siblings, because I could not be a sibling. Unfortunately, that was like taken away from me, not by choice, you know. So for me, when my therapist she looked at me and she said, you're having a hard time with your sister's death because you're grieving her as a parent. You're not grieving her as a sibling. And there's a lot of survivor's guilt. She just went down the whole list. And, you know, and and you, like, as the eldest of your, you know, because he's my brother, I mean, even though you have an older brother, like in the African culture, the older brothers are like not really, the older sister is more what carries, for me, it's what carries a lot of weight, right? And I've always had to take care of everybody around me, my brothers, my sister, my mom. Like I've always been a caretaker of everybody around me. So I never want to like somebody take care of me. And my therapist said something to me that really stuck out. She was like, do you have any weights around you in your house? And I said, yeah, actually I do have some weights, like some 10-pound weights that my husband used to work up. And she's like, go get it. And I was like, okay. And then she told me to, she's like, how long can you hold these weights up in the air like this? And I was like, I can go for a pretty long time. She's like, okay, go for it. So while we're having a conversation, I'm holding up the weights and I'm just like holding them up. And she's like, okay, how do you think you can hold it longer? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I kept on holding them up. And she's like, okay, put it down for a second. And I put it down. And she's like, I just want you to wiggle your arms, you know, stretch them out and all this stuff. And I did that. And then she's like, okay, pick it up again. And I did. And she's like, how long do you think you can pick this up? Hold this up again. And I was like, I can go for a while. And she kept on having a conversation with me. And then I put down the weights. She told me to put down the weights. And I did. And then she said something to me I'll never forget. She said, sometimes you just have to put it down. And pick it up again. And for some reason, that just like triggered a lot of things. And I'm just sitting there bawling, you know? And I'm just like, what? Like, this lady has me all the way confused in just a consultation. This is not even an actual like session, like, you know, we're having a therapy session together. And I'm just crying, and it was not like the cry just like your tears down. It's like that ugly cry that just like deep rooted in pain. And she said to me, and I'll never forget, she's like, you're coming to me for grieving, you know, like counseling for grieving and whatnot. But she's like, the other thing that's gonna help you in your grieving journey to like getting to healing and stuff is that I need to take you back to your childhood, because a lot of damage happened in your childhood, and that's where also the healing will start happening for you. I freaking knew that this was my person. This is a person that can hold space for me. My therapist is a private therapist. The other 3 therapists I went through were through my insurance, and I was such a desperate place, like I did not care paying out of pocket, because I wanted to get help for myself. I needed this. And she told me, she's like, you asked me what sets me apart from other therapists. And she said, I'm willing to go on this journey with you. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but I'm willing to hold your hand through it to make sure that you get the help that you need. I just don't allow every client to go on the journey with them. I am very particular on who I go on a journey with. And I am not one to just be like, oh, hold your thought, we gotta go. Like, I am going on this journey with you. And I knew from that point she was my person. And I just felt, for some reason, to this day, I still feel like my sister sent my therapist to me through a customer that I ended up meeting in my store that introduced me to my therapist. And it has been life-changing. And I wished that I knew a lot of things about, you know, some things about going to therapy. But I am going on this journey of now sharing the things I have learned so far in therapy, and the things that I'm continuing to learn in therapy, because I wished like I could have seen somebody who looked like me, who comes from the same background as me, similar, you know, semi-similar background as me, and can relate somehow, and just like, you know, normalizing of being in therapy, that there's nothing wrong seeing somebody, because like I grew up where mental health and everything and going through, you're just supposed to pray about it. But faith without work is nothing. You have to be able to talk about it. And I'm just so happy that I am now at a point in my grieving journey that I'm comfortable to talk openly about my struggle with mental health and seeking help, and not being ashamed about it, and then not letting it, because sometimes when I used to talk about my sister's death, like, it would destroy me. Now I'm able to talk about it without falling apart, because this is bigger than me, and this is also a way for me, and I'll keep on keeping my sister's name alive, because I would never let her death just go in vain. There's so much to my sister's story, and there's so much to my story, and I know by being vulnerable and being very transparent in my journey, I know even if I help one person, I'll be fine with it. I'll be totally fine with it, because I am more than fashion, you know, than just showing you guys like cute clothes and shoes and the places I'm traveling to and home decor and all whatnot, whatever things I'm going to, attending events. Like, there's more to that, you know. People going through like real life stuff. People are fighting demons and things that we don't know nothing about. And I'm just so happy to be in a place where I'm at. I'm so happy that I'm also able to have access and afford an amazing therapist, because I know not many people have that. So I know in that department I have that beautiful privilege, and I'm just so happy to go on this journey by myself, but also sharing things with you guys while I go on this journey. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's completely different from anything that I've posted here, but I just had to share this. It's been heavy on my heart, and I look forward to sharing more of this. And I am calling it an African Girl in Therapy, because we, in my community, we don't talk very openly about seeking help. So here I am, an African girl, and is in therapy, and I am proud. I'm so happy. I'm breaking so many generation chains and stuff, because I'm the first one from my mom's side and my dad's side to be seeking professional help. So you can also do the same. You know, they talk about soft girl era, you know, but then also like the soft girl era is also knowing the importance of your mental health. Anyways, as always, thank you so much for coming back to my channel, and for your for your beautiful support that you keep on giving me and showing me all the time, over and over and over again. I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye.